This top piece right here is an Allen and Heath box called a GX4816. All that means is it's 48 channels of audio coming in to the mixer and 16 channels of audio going back out of the mixer. 48 inputs, 16 outputs. All right. These lines that you see coming out of the wall and patching in here, these are just copper extensions of the jacks in the floor, right? So if it says mic 1 here, that's mic 1 out in the box, all right? Now, very important, just because you can unplug this and move it over to mic 2 in a panic, you're like, oh my goodness, I gotta have that in mic 2, not mic 1. Okay, do not ever, under any well, I mean, maybe there's some circumstance, but I can't think of any. Do not do that. Because when you get back to the mixer, when you give yourself several different points at which the audio could go in another direction, you start digging yourself a hole you'll never get out of. All right? So we're going to leave all of these patches just like they are, what we would call 1-to-1. 1 is 1, 22 is 22, 48 is 48. Okay? So this is really not going to, it's there, I mean, you can see it, but it's not something you're going to change. It's really there if maybe for a troubleshooting tool. You know, if for some reason out on the floor box you plugged in a microphone, it didn't work. Okay, I plugged into 15, it didn't work. This is on a rehearsal night and I've got a little time in my hands. I want to check to make sure that the jack in the floor box is okay. I could take that microphone back here and plug it into 15, bypass the whole stage part, just go directly into this, and that would tell me, is the stage box the problem or is my microphone the problem, right? So that would be the only case probably where you do this. Now I told you that there were returns, what we labeled as returns out in the floor boxes, all right? Those returns are right here as they're labeled, returns 1 through 12, okay? Now we call them returns, we're not calling them mixes or auxes or whatever, because they basically can be any type of audio that we want to send from the mixer to the stage. All right. So depending on how you're going to use it, it could be a very, you know, a few different things. The most common use case is going to be if we want to plug in a monitor on the stage, we'll use one of these return lines to plug in that floor monitor. All right. And one of the things that we did is we got 3 new floor monitors out there. They're similar in use to what you had before. That's a powered monitor, so you got to plug it in, but it's internally powered. You plug a microphone cable into one of these return ports, plug it into the side of the monitor, and as soon as you patch it appropriately in the console, you've got a floor monitor to use, okay? Then down at the bottom, you'll notice we got 16 outputs, but we're only really using 12 of them for returns. It's because the last 4 are actually permanent outputs that we're going to leave in place all the time. So you can see those are labeled choir monitor, subs, main left, main right. All right. Those then are a physical copper line that comes from here, goes up the wall into the attic, actually goes physically to the speaker, to the choir monitor, or under the stage to the subs, right? So this is really just this box right here is basically taking the audio signals, both ingoing and outgoing, and just taking them from a digital signal that the board understands and translating them into a copper signal that is an old school analog signal going in or going out, right? Now, you'll notice that I've got a gray cable here that says, I gotta turn my label so I can tell you exactly how I got it labeled. All right, it says D-Snake 1. All right, D-Snake 1 is, D-Snake is Allen and Heath's name of their proprietary digital snake technology. Okay, so we just call it D-Snake 1. D-Snake 1 implies that there's more than one. Yes, there is. There is a D-Snake 2. It's laying down there. All right. That's strictly for redundancy. It's not, you don't use both of them at the same time. All right. But if for some reason on a Sunday morning you completely lost all audio, ingoing and outgoing somehow, one of the things that could happen is, you know, a mouse chewed this cable in the attic, or somebody ran through here and tripped on the cable and yanked it and, you know, ruined the end of it or something, whatever. If that, in that type of case, you've got a D-Snake 2, laying in there in the booth as well. The other end's laying in the booth. You could literally just pop that out of the back of the mixer, plug it in, take D-Snake 2, plug it in here. You're back in business. Okay, we just do that because that's really literally all your audio life right there. Yeah. So we always get a backup. And then you'll see this little jumper down here called ME expansion. What that is the output that Allen and Heath provides for their personal mixers. And we're going to talk about that. But we've got 10 personal mixers that musicians in the band that aren't necessarily frontline singers or aren't going to necessarily be moving around a lot will use for their monitoring. Okay, and those 10 mixers are all connected. The audio for those mixers, not just audio, but actually also channel information. So like the names of the channels show up on their mixers. So you name the channel on the board, you name the channel 23 Fred, and now in their mixers, they see channel 23 as Fred. So it happens instantly, all right? So it's audio and information that goes out of the main brain down to this hub. This hub, then, you'll see these mixer outputs that says monitor 1 all the way up to monitor 10, all right? And you remember that we looked at the floor box out here and we saw outputs in the floor box labeled as monitor 1 all the way up to monitor 10, okay? There's no difference between them. They're all receiving the same information, okay? So if a musician has their personal mixer, they have everything dialed in perfectly, and they, for some reason on this Sunday morning, they have to last minute move from this side of the stage to the other side of the stage. They could take their mixer, haul it over to the other side of the stage, plug it into monitor 5 instead of monitor 2, and they would get the exact same information and their mix would stay in place because it's, it's stored inside their mixer, right? So all 10 of those are getting the same information, and the power for the mixers is provided from this hub. It's a PoE type system for like a computer networking power. But basically, once you plug that Cat5 cable into the floor, into one of those monitor jacks, the mixer just turns on. And that has enough power to drive their headphone jack for their headphones, the whole 9 yards, okay? Below that, you'll see the DMX hub, DMX splitter. The DMX splitter, we're audio people, we don't care about lights, but basically that takes the DMX control signal from the sound booth and splits it to 8 outputs, because we have an output for that going to the front light bar, the middle light bar, the back light bar. That's 3 separate runs. Then we have one going to, I think, 4 different places on the stage that you could plug in a light and get control of it. And just like we have a duplicate of the D-Snake line going to this, we also have a duplicate of the DMX main line. We have a DMX main 1 and a DMX main 2. So if you had to swap it, you could. But like I said, we're audio guys. We really don't care about this. One thing to know is that this rack is controlled with the power sequencing system. We don't have it all actually mounted pretty in the rack back there yet, but it is hooked up and working. Just like you had in the past, you had the individual toggles that were various things. One was the booth, one was floor power on the stage, one was lights, etc. You'll have that same type of system. You can either turn a key and turn the whole system on, everything all at one time, or you can toggle individual switches and turn on parts of the system. Okay, this DMX hub, because of the fact that we always want the DMX signal to be live, we never want to accidentally have the lights turned on, but our control hub is off somehow, right? So this hub down here is plugged into an always-on outlet on the sequencing system, which basically just means even when the system is sequenced down, you'll come in here, everything else will be dark, but these lights will still be on. That's not a problem. That's not something that's wrong. That's the way it's supposed to be. We want that DMX control setup to always be alive, right? So anyway, that's the rack here. There's really not anything that you need to do in here other than just know it's working and understand kind of how it works if you have to troubleshoot something. But on a normal Sunday morning, if everything's going to plan and smoothly, you don't even need to be in here. You can turn everything off and on from the booth. You can see from the mixer whether or not you've got communication with this brain, and you're ready to go. Any questions about any of that?